Happy New Year! I'm confident today's show will surprise, delight, and inspire you in more ways than one. I'm kicking things off by introducing you to one of Time's best inventions of the year and sharing how it will help keep your kids and teens safer online. Next, you definitely know the songs hitmaker Desmond Child has written, but you won't believe the stories he's sharing in his new memoir. Then I'll help you head into the new year with a healthy mindset when I talk to the lead clinician of the world-renowned Onsite Workshops located right here in Tennessee. Finally, I've compiled my best money-saving tips to help you create healthy budget habits for this month and the year ahead. So put aside those resolutions because I'm helping you set attainable intentions today. This is the Sami Cone Show.
From the News Channel 5 Network, this is the Sami Cone Show.
If you're wondering about the right time to get a child a smartphone, or maybe your kids already have one and you're concerned about what they're being bombarded with online, you're going to want to listen closely to my next guest. Titania Jordan is the Chief Parenting Officer of Bark Technologies and author of Parenting in a Tech World. Welcome to the Sami Cone Show, Titania.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always great to get to hang out with you.
I'm always glad to talk to you, and this is needed now more than ever. Can you talk to us a little bit about why parents today should be concerned about getting their kids a smartphone?
Absolutely. And I fall into this camp too of giving my son tech that wasn't inherently safe for him because I didn't know at the time. I gave him a smartphone too early, and I gave him one that didn't have the right protections. And so many parents are giving their children hand-me-down iPhones that don't have adequate parental controls, or Android phones or other phones that just don't have their best interests in mind. The rate at which children experience dangers online, dangerous content, and dangerous people is so much higher than any one of us might think. And that's where our smartphone comes in with tamper-proof parental controls and giving parents the ability to get alerts when those dangers take place.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I just want to kind of cut to the chase here, because Bark Technologies has created something really special and the world is taking notice. The Bark phone has been named one of Time's top 200 best inventions of the year. I mean, that's such an honor.
Huge, huge. We were completely geeking out when we saw that, understandably. And it, in all seriousness, it means the world. It means the world to have launched a safer smartphone for children that is super sleek and fun and has all the functionality that they want and you want them to have if and when you want them to have it. And in less than a year, make it onto the list like that. Incredible.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you're showing it too. I want to get to the features, but one of the things I love about it is that it doesn't look like a kid's phone. There's nothing on it that would embarrass, especially if you're giving it to a teenager. There's no logos. There's nothing that they would be embarrassed to pull it out. Why was that important?
It was so important. In fact, I'm going to grab it. It's right here. I didn't want to show you just the box. It's super sleek. There's nothing juvenile about it. And it was so important because we know how frequently children are bullied for all kinds of things. The last thing we want them to be bullied for is their smartphone.
Yeah. I want to talk about some of the features, but as a parent who's used Bark for years, one of the things I loved about it is that I wasn't hiding it from my kids. This was before the phone itself was invented, but with the technology and the software, it was a conversation we had. And so I didn't feel like I was spying on it. They didn't feel like I was looking in, but it allowed for conversations. What do you feel like is so unique with the technology that comes already inherently on the phone itself?
This is the most powerful thing about Bark. And I'll start with an analogy. You don't let your kids ride in a car without a car seat or a seatbelt. You just don't do that. And that's the equivalent of the Bark phone. You're giving your child very powerful tech, but you have that seatbelt with our application and operating system. And no other smartphone is going to proactively alert you via text and email, and sometimes emergency phone call, if and when your child has encountered a predator, cyberbullying, explicit violent content, mental health concerns, eating disorder related content. There are other options out there that will help you, manage screen time or set filters, approve contacts, and that's fine. And Bark does all of that. But in addition to everything that you would expect from a super powerful, sleek smartphone, We are going above and beyond to analyze the content and context of your child's digital signal and then alert you so you can be in the know.
Yeah, I love that you said that too, because it allowed me to have those informed conversations, whether it was an emoji I didn't know about or certain terms. The emails that Bark would send me was so good. They're like, here's the latest slang. And so it even allowed me to go talk to them about that. If I saw that in a conversation, I'd be like, is this really appropriate? Things like that. And I don't want to let you go without asking too, can other things be monitored, like games or tech toys?
I'm so glad you asked this. You know, a lot of parents, when they give their children social media access, they let them download Snapchat and TikTok. They realize if their children have an iPhone, it's not the easiest to monitor. It's possible, but it's not easy. The Bark phone is the only smartphone that can fully monitor Snapchat, which is, you know, not a great thing for kids to have disappearing photos in real-time live location shared with anybody they're connected with. So it's incredibly unique, incredibly powerful. There's nothing like it. And you touched on something that I want to quickly jump in with, which is the relationship that you have with your child is the most important thing, tech aside. And when you're using the Bark phone, it allows you to have those candid, sometimes uncomfortable, but very important conversations.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. Tanya, we have a special offer for the Bark services, but you also have some deals for the phone itself. People can go to www.bark.us. We'll put that below. That's www.bark.us. You can use code Sami Cone for a free trial of the software as well. Tanya, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Have a wonderful 2024.
Yes, you too. If you've ever turned on a radio, chances are you have heard hit songs by my next guest, Desmond Child. Welcome to the Sami Cone Show.
Oh, it's so great to be here, Sammy.
I am thrilled to have you. I say songwriting. I mean, we're going to talk about that, but you have a new book called Living on a Prayer, Big Songs, Big Life. And it just happens to be in the inside of the book a little song called Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi. That's just one of, I mean, like over 80 hits, I feel like.
80 top 40 and many like number ones.
Many, yeah.
Many.
And I mean, if you,
and
just reading,
500 million records sold.
It's incredible.
And
Isn't
billions streamed. What do you think about that?
Well, I was just gonna. What do you think about that? Like, how
it's so
that
awesome.
just rolled off your tongue? But could you ever have imagined that? Because again, we'll talk about the book in a second. But you have not had the most conventional or easiest of upbringings. So, as a child, could you ever imagine that you would be sitting on a stage saying numbers like that?
My mother was a songwriter. Her name was Elena Casals. People knew her as La Musa, and she had magical thinking. I mean, she was kind of like Blanche Dubois meets Angelica Houston of the Grifters. She had like 10 businesses in her trunk.
Wow.
You know, an alias for every business. I mean, she always said we were going to make it big, you know, and so we did. And I was able to get us out of the projects in Liberty City, you know, where they shot Moonlight. That's where I grew up.
Amazing.
And was able to buy 4 mansions on Miami Beach, and I gave her one of them.
Wow. How did that, I mean, when you look at the names, even just that are, you know, that have done some of the dedications and the, you know, in the front of the book here, you've got Alice Cooper, Cher, speaking of Moonlight, you know, Bon Jovi, Joan Jett, Steven Tyler, Diane Warren. I mean, where does that inspiration then come from? Because it's one thing to say, I'm going to be a success, I'm going to be a hit, but then to be able to not only create it once, but replicate it as many times as you did.
Well, it's what we call the hustle, you know, in the book. It's
I did
the
read,
hustle.
yes.
And the thing is, you have to have, you know, everyone says you have to have like equal parts talent and hustle. You have to have way more hustle than talent.
Interesting.
As proven by many stars that made it.
Sure.
That may not be so talented. But the thing is that you just can't give up. And I just had it in my mind that I was going to take care of my mother and that she would live like a queen till the end of her life. And so that was the motivation for me. So no matter, you know, how many disappointments, the great thing about songwriting is you wake up in the morning, you start your career all over again from scratch. Nothing you did before matters.
Yeah.
It almost works against you. Oh yeah, that Desmond Child has had so many hits, you know, 6 decades of hits. What could he possibly contribute now?
Sure.
And I've proven it over and over again that you just stay with it and stay, you know, not like as Dolly Parton says, an active participant in the music business, in the entertainment business.
I believe it.
And, you know, Clive Davis is my idol. He's going to be 92 this year, and he's working as hard as he ever did. And so that's me.
Well, speaking of, you have a new book that we keep talking about.
Yeah.
There's a lot in this book. And I mean, not just in terms of the stories, but the pictures alone are incredible. I mean, I love poems. You've written poetry in here. Why this and why now?
Well, my husband and I moved to Nashville with our sons when they were toddlers, and we loved Nashville, and so they ended up going to Ensworth, and they're at NYU now in their senior year. And it was one of those things where I said, you know, all they know about me is that I'm daddy with the open checkbook. You know, and I wanted them to get to know the real me. So that was my motivation. But it ended up being, it took 7 years, like a 7-year jailhouse confession, like a real reckoning of all the things that, you know, I had rewritten in my mind, you know, in a positive way that maybe wasn't the truth. And so, you know, my collaborator, David Ritz, he just got down to the bottom of everything. And so it was a real experience that, you know, I just feel renewed, actually. Because I don't have to keep all of that inside of me anymore. It's in the book. For all the world to see.
I'm so proud of you. We have to wrap up. I just have to ask really quick, can you pick a favorite song, or is that like asking you to pick a favorite child?
Well, I think one of my favorite songs, of course, is Living on a Prayer, because it's more than a song. It's an event wherever it's played. And my sons, Roman and Nero, went to Kid Rock's, and there are like 5 different levels. And they did a prank with their high school buddies and had them play Living on a Prayer on every floor.
That's hilarious.
At the same time.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. Well, there's so many stories we could talk about. We didn't even get to talk about Ricky Martin, but that's okay. You'll have to read it in the book, Desmond Child. Living on a Prayer, Big Songs, Big Life. Make sure you pick it up. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. The new year represents a perfect time for us to acknowledge what was, just think about what is, and imagine what can come about. And my next guest is the perfect person to lead us in a conversation about that. I'm joined by Carlos Martinez, the lead technician of Onsite Workshops. Welcome to the Sami Cone Show, Carlos.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad I'm here.
I'm so glad you're here too. Now, full disclosure, I actually have attended Onsite Workshops before, and you probably didn't know that I did this because we're not allowed to share what we do or even our last names, and we'll talk more about that before, but I was so transformed by what happened at Onsite. Can you give our audience just a little glimpse of what Onsite Workshops is all about?
Yeah, so Onsite, generally we offer intensive workshops for people to come either do an individual intensive or a couples intensive or a week-long workshop where they can do a group experience. And we have different programs like healing trauma, healthy love and relationships, the Living Centered program, which is our flagship program. And it's really designed to help you step away from the craziness of the world, to step away from emails and phone calls and text messages and just let you focus and be you.
Yeah, and it does that so well. And you led some of those small group lectures that we would start the mornings off with. And one of the things that stood out most that you said is that some of what's happened to us was our body's way of protecting us, not to feel shame or guilt because of the things that we've done or that have happened to us, but just to almost thank our body. Can you talk about how people can start out by just acknowledging the past?
Yeah, so trauma, I think, and so we talk a lot about trauma and what we do here, and trauma isn't a memory, it is a reenactment or a re-experiencing of what our body went through. And so all the ways that we develop to deal with those traumas, whether it's checking out, whether it's dissociating, it might be doom scrolling or Amazon or Netflix or, you know, something. Those are all attempts that our body makes in order to try and take care of us and survive the moment. So I see a lot of people come through and really think negatively and poorly of themselves for how they got through some of the worst, incredible, like horrible experiences of their life. And so the way to kind of turn it on its head is to understand, no, those things that you did helped you survive, and thank God that you're here now working on it.
Yeah, that was so helpful for me. Another thing that's helped me in the present, and this is a little surprise, does this mean something to you, Carlos, this ampersand? One of the things that you taught me, I was hoping I would get you there. You know, a lot of times we say but, like I was doing this, but this. And you said, don't say but, say and. So for everyone that doesn't get the little inside joke, explain the and.
Yeah, I have that ampersand. I was just talking to somebody this morning in one of our workshops that I am a recovering all or nothing thinker, that I used to think a lot of things, it was this or that, it was all or nothing, it was black and white. And one of the things that's deeply helped me in my emotional recovery is trying to think in terms of this and this can be true at the same time. One of my therapists used to make fun of me that I would say the word and I would make it last about 4 syllables long. And because, you know, recovery thinking is really 2 things can be true at the same time or more, rather than it's this or this.
Yeah.
I love that you have that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. Before I let you go, we have to think future. And one of the things I learned at Onsite as well was this 2-degree shift. And so sometimes, especially in the new year, we have all these resolutions and make these big goals. What is the significance behind the 2-degree shift?
Yeah, I would say in a word, kindness. When we come into these new year and new goals and things that a lot of that all or nothing thinking with I must, you know, I have to lose 10 pounds in a week. I need to learn this new language immediately. And the kindest thing you can do to yourself is to give yourself space and realization that it took some time to get here, and it's going to take some time on this 2-degree course of where I want to get. It'll take time, and if you invest in that 2-degree shift, it will absolutely be worth it because it'll be sustainable. When we make a 180-degree shift, we can go off willpower for a little bit, but the 2-degree shift is going to make sure that we sustain it and it lasts.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. There's so much at Onsite that helped me. Miles, the founder, had said, I heard him say recently, what if we could remember who we were before the world told us who to be? If there was one, you know, just a few seconds left, what would you tell people as they're considering how to think of themselves in this new year?
Yeah, I would encourage everyone. One of my favorite things to say is my hope is that people would give themselves just as much, if not more, compassion than they've been willing to give everybody else. We give people a lot of slack. Maybe it's time to start giving yourself a little bit more too.
That's so beautiful. Carlos, I wish we could talk longer. I learned so much. This is just a little snippet. There are great resources online at experienceonsite.com. And there's actually a really unique promotion going on for people that want to participate in person here in Tennessee. They can go to experienceonsite.com. Carlos, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been such a blessing.
Honor. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll be right back. I was on Talk of the Town this month sharing my top 5 budget tips for the new year, and I wanted to make sure you had a look at it too.
All right, 2024 is here, just begun. I can't believe it. But Sami Cone is here to give us some healthy money habits for the new year. Everybody is looking for a fresh restart and maybe to get, you know, some of their money habits kind of back in line as we start the new year.
Yeah, just get a little refresh, overhaul. Absolutely. This is a great time to do it. So let's start by reviewing some of those subscriptions you may not need anymore. So we're talking everything from magazines, maybe the gym membership that you haven't used this year already. Just saying, but you know, it might be a Netflix, whatever it is. Just go ahead and make sure you know what you're spending, okay? And you may want to get rid of a few of those.
I know, and they can add up too. I feel like all the streaming services, once you really look at how much you're spending, you know, getting rid of a couple is probably necessary.
It's not a bad idea, and we're going to talk about how you can keep track of that too in just a second.
All right, returning gifts is a big thing that always happens once we get to January after the holidays. Some tips there?
Yeah, so make sure you go ahead. Those return windows that seemed long in October are now shortening.
Yeah.
So either return something maybe that you got that you don't need or you got 2 of, but you're going to get a credit. So make sure you go ahead and use that credit if you didn't have a receipt, or if you bought gifts, right, that you didn't, you know, end up giving, go ahead and return those. And if you get a credit or a gift card, make sure that you spend those. I'm the worst at keeping gift cards in my purse or in the car. Just go ahead and use them. Go ahead and take everyone out to dinner or get something practical. If you don't know what to do, get pens, get something that you know you're going to need. And that way you've kind of used all the money that you have that's not tangible money.
I'm the worst at pulling out an old purse and saying, I forgot this gift card was in here. It's like a little
Right?
fun surprise that you find.
Right, but it's actual money. We forget that
Yeah,
it's
I
actual
know.
money. So let's go ahead and use it, and it'll help our budgets in the new year.
All right, speaking of budgets, what else you got for us?
Yeah, so what I want you to do, speaking of knowing what you're spending, go ahead and sign up for budget billing. A lot of the utilities will let you do that. That way it takes out what you spend over the course of the year and divides it evenly month by month. So like utilities, electric, that's a great way to do that.
Yeah.
If your utility company doesn't let you do that, go ahead and just take a look at what you've spent over the past 12 months, and you can do that for yourself.
Interesting. So you can like kind of go on your banking app, look and see what you're spending, and then put that in so you know kind of what each month is going to look like.
Yeah, the banking app will do that. A lot of the credit cards will even give you like a little pie graph so you can see how much you've spent, and that way you know month by month, here's what I need to allot for. And if you go over, you need to cut back, vice versa.
It can give you, it gives me anxiety to look and see what you're spending, but it's necessary.
It's a good reality check. We all need it. Yeah.
Yes, we definitely. My husband is watching saying, yes,
That's why I'm
we
here.
need it. All right, so when we're saving,
Yes.
we saved all year long to buy those presents for the holidays, but it's kind of already time to start saving again.
You need to start those buckets again. So whether it's, dropping coins in the jar, or whether it's your envelope system, or again, a lot of your banking apps have those little buckets that you can electronically. So when you get a paycheck, you say, I want $100 a month to go to gifts, or I want 10% to go into my savings. Whatever it is, have it done automatically, because if you've paid yourself from that last year, it's time to start replenishing, or if you haven't started, that this is the time.
All right, how much would you say is a good amount maybe each month to set aside?
For, well, it's, it's whatever you have. So if your savings, you really want to be trying to save 10 to 20% of what your take-home pay is. I do 10% for giving, and then it's whatever your budget is. If you want to say $100 a month for gifts, I mean, that doesn't go a long way when you're thinking of Christmas, birthdays, anniversaries, trips, all of those things. So just know what, that's why this is important, to know what you're spending on the necessities, to then go ahead and do the extras.
All right, real quick, if you don't have a whole lot to save, you can actually start a side hustle to kind of build that money.
Yeah, we can only save so much. You got to start earning more at some point. So, start networking, tell your friends, or the winter's a great time to pick up a side hustle at home.
Really great tips there.
Thank you. I know that was a lot of information, and I've shared a lot of tips with you today. Don't feel like you have to do it all right now. Sit with it. Pray about it. Ask your family and those closest to you to reflect with you. You can't do everything, but you can do something. My prayer for you today is that you pick just one thing from today's show that stood out to you and act on it this week. It may not go perfectly, but when we get in the practice of stepping out in faith, that's when we get to witness change and miracles take place. Thank you for joining me today. I pray you have a great day. Make sure you make it great, and do not wait to tell someone you love how you feel about them. Bye, friends.